Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamuditaye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, entitled The Sales Code, Chapter 6, Creation of Universal Form, Text number 5. Parena, visata, svasmin, parena, visata, svasmin, matraya, visva-srg-ganah, matraya, visva-srg-ganah. Cuksobha, anyonyam, asadya, cuksobhanyonyam, asadya, cuksobhanyonyam, asadya, yasmin, lokah, cara-acarah, yasmin lokas, cara-acarah, yasmin lokas, cara-acarah, parena, visata, svasmin, matraya, visva-srg-ganah, cuksobhanyonyam, asadya, yasmin lokas, cara-acarah, visva-srk, elements of universal creation, ganah, all, cuksobha, transform, anyonyam, one another, asadya, having obtained, yasmin, in which, lokah, the planets, cara-acarah, movable and immovable. Translation and purport by one basis Translation. As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in all the planetary systems, and all movable and immovable creations rest. As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. Purport by Srimad Bhagavatam. The elements of cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in his plenary portion. This means that matter does not increase or decrease unless it is spiritually touched. Matter is a product of spirit and increases only by the touch of spirit. The entire cosmic manifestation has not assumed its gigantic form by itself, as wrongly calculated by less intelligent persons. As long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed, but without the spirit, matter stops increasing. For example, as long as there is spiritual consciousness within the material body of the living entity, the body increases to the required size. But a dead material body, which has no spiritual consciousness, stops increasing. In Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2, importance is given to the spiritual consciousness, not the body. The entire cosmic body increased by the same process that we experience in our small bodies. One should not, however, foolishly think that the individual infinitesimal soul is the cause of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The universal form is called the virat-rupa because the Supreme Lord is within it in his plenary portion. Thus ends the Bhagavad-gita Purport. Om Jnana-Timirandasya Jnana-Tinasharaya Chakshurunmilitam-yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha. Namaho Vishnu-padaya Krishna-pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami-nam. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvijaya-shunyavadi Varsakya-deshakari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura-bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matraya Rishi is explaining the process of creation of the virat. This is a technical description of the creation. This is the perspective from which it is explained how Vishnu is involved in the creation. We have heard Brahma is the creator, We might have heard Vishnu is the maintainer. But here, Vishnu is being explained as the creator. How he is involved in creation. To summarize what was already explained earlier, Mahavishnu, the first Vishnu form in this material world, he is lying down on a causal ocean. Causal ocean is a portion of the spiritual sky which is the source of this entire material creation. It's the cause for the material creation. That's why it calls ocean. Cara-acarah. On this cara-acarah, Mahavishnu is lying down. And he is glancing on the material energy. Material energy is lying dormant before the creation. Dormant means inactive, no activity, no development, no changes. So Mahavishnu glances, and then there is activity. There is some changes taking place. What is the first change that happens? There is Mahat-tattva. The total material energy as Mahat-tattva comes into existence, comes into manifestation. Then that Mahat-tattva transforms into what is called as Ahankara, false. These are all the various elements for the creation to take place. Mahat-tattva, then Ahankara, then the mind is generated and the intelligence, then the different elements of matter, sky, air, fire, water, earth, and the corresponding sense objects and the senses. All these are elements which are generated one after another by the action of the three gunas on Mahat-tattva, on the false ego, on the elements. So different elements are created, totally 23 elements. Now each of these elements have got a demigod who is its controller. Just like you might have heard, air is controlled by Vayu-deva, fire is controlled by Agni-deva, water is controlled by Varuna. So like that there are controllers, devatas. But these devatas, they are given the power. They are generated after the creation begins. And they are given the power by Krishna. So how these devatas get the power and how the creation happens is described in some detail in this section of the Bhagavatam. So in the previous chapter, it was explained that the devatas came into existence, elements were generated, but the devatas could not do their duty of the further creation because they were unable to properly act. They found that they were not having the power or the ability or the skill. So they prayed to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And then Vishnu, what he did, he entered into the elements. Vishnu entered into it. And all the elements became transformed into the huge form of the universe, the universal form. That is what this chapter is called, creation of the universal form. After the Lord entered into the elements, then the elements transformed into the universal form, virat-rupa or visva-srk. And this visva-srk is the resting place for all the planets, for all the living entities, for everything that is created, movable and immovable. This virat-rupa is the resting place, the universal form. Now, in the Purport, Prabhupada is explaining that the elements are all matter, whether it is the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, and sun, or the senses, sense objects, or the mind, intelligence as elements, all of them are matter. Matter has no potency to increase in volume. Matter cannot increase in volume except when matter is touched by spirit. That spiritual touch initially is provided by the Supreme Lord when He enters into the elements. After He enters, the elements begin to expand. So it is said here that matter does not increase or decrease by itself. The material scientists, they only consider matter. They have no knowledge of spirit. They have no understanding of spirit. So these material scientists, their theory is that matter as a chemical combination at a certain stage begins to develop and it undergoes different types of changes, and those changes are all the basis for this creation of the entire material world. But this is not a correct understanding because matter is inert. It has no capacity or ability to develop on its own. It is only possible for changes to happen in matter when there is spirit entering into matter. Just like we have experienced with this body, as long as the spirit soul is there inside the body has got living symptoms. The body is changing. The body is producing some byproducts. But as soon as the spirit soul leaves the body, it's a dead body. A dead body, can you expect that to show any life symptoms? No. Can the dead body grow? So, even the dead body, it decomposes or it breaks down by action of other spiritual entities in the form of germs, insects, worms, You know that. There is dead wood lying. With that dead wood, anything happen to it unless some worm or insect, something acts on it? No, it is simply like that. But as soon as some white ants come and attack, immediately the wood starts breaking down. Or some microbes or germs. So like that, unless there is spiritual touch, there is no possibility of any change to take place in matter. So that spiritual touch is first provided at the beginning of creation by the Supreme Lord Himself entering into the elements. After He enters, the universal form is created. Therefore, the universal form is called the virat-rupa, because the Supreme Lord has entered into this universal form, into the universe as a plenary portion. Plenary portion means the Supreme Lord Himself, with all His power, personally has expanded into a particular form called Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Now, why Garbhodakashayi Vishnu? That will be explained in the next few verses. That this second Vishnu form, he enters into the universal shell, and after that, the universal shell which is empty, he fills half that universal shell with his own water, perspiration. Water of his own perspiration. And that water is called Garbha water. Garbha because it is the source of birth of Brahma. Just like a mother's womb is the source of birth of a child. Similarly, Brahma is born from that Garbha ocean. Brahma is born from the Garbha ocean. But the cause for Brahma's birth is not that ocean. It is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. The Vishnu who is lying there is the cause for Brahma's birth. So from him, with the Garbha ocean as the source, the birth of Brahma takes place. So that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is also called as the Lord of the universe, who has the whole universe as his form, called universal form. Vishva-pati and visva-rupa is the universal Lord. Jagat-pati, Vishwa-natha, Vishwa-pati, Jagat-natha, different names, same meaning. That the Lord of the universe, that is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he also has a universal form. That universal form further generates or develops or produces different parts of the creation, different aspects of the creation that will be explained in the next few verses. But for now, you should understand that this universe cannot develop on its own independently from matter. There is a need for spiritual touch. That spiritual touch is given by Vishnu, the second Vishnu form called Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And that Vishnu has entered into the elements for the universal form to develop. And this universal form is the resting immovable creatures. Everything is resting in this visva-srk, universal. So that is the description given here in this portion of the Bhagavatam. This technical portion. So this to be carefully understood the duality. Again, the devatas as prajapatis, as the progenitors of the different species of life. From that perspective, Vishnu is the first prajapati, because Vishnu gives birth to Brahma. And Brahma gives birth to the other prajapatis, Manu and others, Daksha, so many others. And the other prajapatis, they give birth to the human or the birds or the animals or the worm, insects or the reptiles or the plants, aquatics. All of them are produced by the prajapatis. And after they are produced, then they multiply by the process through which they produce offspring. And that's how the whole universe becomes populated. But as far as creating the variety in the universe, the different planets and all the planets with different facilities for the living beings to actually utilize the facilities, just like we require, we are creatures of the earth, terrestrial. We require ground, solid firm ground. Whereas there are aquatics who live in the water. There are living beings in the air, living in the air. There are living beings living in the fire. So all these living beings, for them the facility to live after they are created, that facility itself is created when the universal form develops. It's like the element air is one thing, but the air that we are breathing, the air that is spread as atmosphere in the sky, that is developed after the universal form begins to develop. So, the air inside our body, all these are different manifestations of air which are developed after the Lord enters into the element called air and the air begins to develop. Similarly, fire also. You see, different types of fire are there. The fire which you perceive as the heat from the sun, that is one kind of fire. Then there is fire which is another kind of fire by burning wood. Then there is fire of digestion within our stomach. Then another kind of fire, cara-acarah. So different kinds of fire is also there. So the fire element develops into different kinds of fire after the Lord enters into element fire. Earth also, we know, earth, there are so many varieties of earth: stone, clay, sand, and even that same earth, stone also, there is granite, there is diamond. So different varieties of earth. So the earth also develops into varieties, so many varieties. After the Lord enters into the earth element. So what we know as earth is not exactly the element, original element, but a development of that element into so many varieties. So this is what happens after the Lord enters and the elements develop. And the combinations also. The elements themselves develop, but the elements also combine. It's like our body. It is made up of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, and sky. But they are combined in different proportion to form this body. So many varieties of materials are going to form this body, tissues, skin and flesh, bones, and so many things. So this development, how does it take place? This development happens after the Lord enters into the elements and the elements develop, combine so many varieties of combinations. So this is possible only after the spirit soul enters into matter. So matter and spirit, according to our Vedic literature, are 2 different kinds of energies of the Supreme Lord. Both are energies of the Supreme Lord. There are 2 different kinds of energies. And one energy, matter, is inferior because matter does not have consciousness. Spirit also is energy, but spirit is superior because spirit has consciousness. We living entities, we are spirit. We are energy, but we are spirit. Spiritual energy. Now spiritual energy also, there are different kinds of spiritual energy. One kind of spiritual energy is we the living entities, Shiva, Jiva soul. But there is another kind of spiritual energy, that is Krishna's own internal energy. Krishna's own energy, Atma Maya, Yoga Maya. That is another kind of internal energy. That is another kind of spiritual energy. So, even this material energy also is actually an energy of the Lord. Because the Lord is completely spiritual, His energies are also spiritual. So even this material energy, as the energy of the Lord is originally spiritual, this energy is spiritual. But this energy is transformed into matter for the sake of this creation to take place. For the sake of creating these material objects, material varieties, material bodies, material senses, material sense objects, material planets, material elements. For that sake, the spiritual energy of the Lord, Mahamaya, is transformed into matter. So originally, matter is of the same category or same nature as spiritual energy only. But it is transformed into matter for the purpose of this creation to take place. For the purpose of the living beings who want to lord it over matter. We want to be the Lord. So therefore, the Lord creates this matter. He material world. He creates this universal form. He creates all the bodies of the living beings because of our desire to enjoy separate from Him, our desire to enjoy being the Lord. It is actually the position of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, the energies originally are all spiritual. But only one energy, that is this Mahamaya, is transformed into matter or material energy for the specific purpose. Similarly, the Jiva energy, the Jiva soul, the living being, living entities, they are also completely spiritual. But when they desire to enjoy materially, when they want to be independent of Krishna, then they are covered by the material body, the matter. Their intelligence is bewildered. Their identity is covered by false identity. Their identity is originally spirit soul, but that becomes covered by a material body, and their identity also they think wrongly to be I am this body. So these changes are due to the desires of the living entities. That is the explanation of the mind. So if we want to solve this problem of material existence, those who are wise, those who are intelligent, they can understand. My problems are all due to this material body. My problems are due to this material existence, which is defective. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha. Dukkha means misery, dosha means defect. So in this world, there are 4 defects or miseries. What is that? Janma, taking birth. Mrityu, dying. Jara, old age. Vyadhi, disease. So Bhagavad-gita says these 4 fundamental defects or miseries are there in this material existence, material world. So Bhagavatam says if you want to solve these problems permanently, then you should understand why this material existence at all for you, the spirit soul, who are completely spiritual. That is because of our desiring independent enjoyment, because of our forgetfulness of Krishna. Therefore the Bhagavatam says, revive your memory of Krishna. That's why Smaranam, Krishna Smaranam. Krishna Kirtanam, Shravanam, hear about Krishna. Chant Krishna's name, remember Krishna. All this will revive your memory of Krishna. And when memory of Krishna is revived, then your material existence is finished, over. No more material existence. As soon as you revive your memory of Krishna. Just like to give an example, as long as you are sleeping, you may be dreaming. Especially when there is a bad dream, so much suffering due to the bad dream. But as soon as the person wakes up, then what happens? Immediately the memory is revived. What is the memory that is revived? You have forgotten who you are, you have forgotten where you are, you have forgotten what is your surrounding, you have forgotten that you are just lying on the bed, and then in the dream you are suffering. But as soon as your memory is revived, oh, just a dream. What do you say immediately? What do you think? Oh, dream. That's all. Over. All suffering is over. All problem is over. In as you revive your memory of Krishna, immediately your problems are over. You know who you are, you know where you belong, you know what was happening before, why you were suffering, everything you got to know. Immediately. So, what is the best way to revive this memory of Krishna? There are many methods, but the best method is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You practice chanting the mantra very nicely, hear nicely, chant properly, and practice remembering the name of Krishna. Then, by practice, your memory of Krishna is gradually awakened. Just like in the morning, when the sun is rising, gradually you see darkness is going away. Similarly, as you awaken to the memory of Krishna, your ignorance will be gone, your material suffering will reduce, and definitely as you progress, your memory will be fully revived. It takes little time. Of course, that time can be shortened. The time taken to fully revive our consciousness of Krishna, our awareness of Krishna, our memory of Krishna, that time can be made very short. What is that short time? Actually, Bhagavatam says one moment. One moment. But Prabhupada says, you decide to dedicate your life, this short life, because we have been living here for millions of lifetimes in this material world. So, this one life, whatever number of years you have in this body, you decide, I am going to dedicate for reviving my memory of Krishna. I will chant Hare Krishna. I will take Krishna Prasadam. I will glorify Krishna. I will associate with devotees of Krishna. Like this lifetime you dedicate. Along with whatever normal activities you are doing for maintaining your body, for carrying out your responsibilities, for doing your duties. Along with that, you also do this in a dedicated, a sincere manner. Then you see, at the end of this life, it is guaranteed. Yaktva deham punarjanma naiti maneti. When you quit the body, you are guaranteed to go to the abode of Krishna. That guarantee is given. So one life you dedicate for this reviving your memory of, for reviving your Krishna. That's it. Stop it. Srimad Bhagavatam,